In the middle of the sea on a sinking ship, a man tries to lower his wife and baby into a boat to save their lives. He barely manages to save himself and is reunited with his family. They make it to the shore by morning and decide to build a shelter on a tree. In the jungle, a family of gorillas is settling down for the night. Young mother Kayla and her partner Kerchak, the leader of the clan, are resting with their baby. As they sleep, their baby runs off to chase a frog and suddenly encounters a leopard named Sabor, who ends his life instantly. Kayla is upset that she couldn't save him in time, but she hears a crying baby and rushes to the source of the sound. She finds the baby in the shelter of a couple who escaped from the ship. The shelter is in disarray, and the couple is already dead, killed by Sabor. Kayla is panicked after seeing Sabor's footprints, and soon hears the baby cry once again. She finds him in the box that his parents had hidden him in. She realizes it is not an animal baby. However, she decides to adopt him as her son anyway. Unfortunately, Sabor suddenly appears to take the baby's life, but Kayla is there to stop and fight him off to save the baby. However, Kayla manages to escape from Sabor by jumping on the boat that was hanging outside the house, and she is able to trap him with a rope. She returns to her clan to show what she has brought with her, and everyone looks confused and doesn't know what it is. Kayla tells Kerchak that she saved him from Sabor, but he says that the baby won't replace the one they lost, as the baby is not their kind. He commands her to take it back, but she refuses, which makes Kerchak burst in anger. He cannot let her keep the baby that he thinks might be dangerous for their clan. However, on Kayla's fierce insistence, he allows her to keep the baby anyway, when Kayla tells him that the baby's family was killed by Sabor. Still, Kerchak doesn't accept the baby as his son, which upsets Kayla so much. Kerchak settles down there for the night, and Kayla names him Tarzan. As Tarzan starts to cry, she comforts him and promises to protect him from everything. She brings Tarzan to the top of the tree and rests with him there for the night. Many years later, Tarzan grows into a young, strong boy. He shows Kayla that he can be a leopard, but soon stumbles upon Kerchak, who is not happy to see him. However, his best friend, Turk, shows up to help him out from Kerchak and warns him that if he wants Kerchak to like him, he needs to stay away from him. At once, Turk's friend asks him to go to see the last dung beetle together, which Tarzan also wants to join with them. Turk allows Tarzan to go with him, but only if he can keep up with them. Yet Turk thinks Tarzan can't keep up, which really upsets him. As soon as Turk arrives, Tarzan shows up as well, and Turk's friend wonders why Tarzan is here. Tarzan tells them that Turk allowed him to come along if he could keep up, and Turk's friend is disappointed because they don't want Tarzan there. Turk takes care of the situation and tells Tarzan that he would love to hang around with him, as Tarzan already knows, but Turk's friends need a little convincing. Turk gives Tarzan a seemingly impossible task to go get an elephant hair, and when Tarzan is unable to complete it, Turk asks him to go back home. Turk assumes Tarzan has left, but suddenly Tarzan runs and jumps off a cliff to dive into a river. Turk's friend is impressed with Tarzan and wants Turk to bring him around more often as long as Tarzan comes back alive. At that moment, a young elephant named Tantor tries to warn his mother about Tarzan, thinking he is a piranha, but his mother tells him there are no piranhas in Africa. Not long after, Tarzan grabs the male elephant's tail, and they mistake him for a piranha, causing them to rush into the jungle, nearly killing a baby gorilla. However, Kerchak is able to save the baby gorilla in time. Turk drags him out of the river and begs him to stay alive. Fortunately, Tarzan regains consciousness and shows Turk that he has the hair. Kayla then shows up to see Tarzan, as she is worried that he might have been hurt. Tarzan claims it is his fault, to which Kerchak blames him as he almost killed someone. Kayla defends him, saying that he is still a child. However, Kerchak says that's not an excuse, and he is tired of Kayla defending him. He tells Kayla that Tarzan will never learn, and he will never be one of them. Hearing all of this, Tarzan runs off into the jungle and watches his reflection through the water, disappointed that he was born different from the others. He then takes mud to cover himself to look like the gorilla, but Kayla clears it off and encourages him to be himself, as they all have the same limbs, and Tarzan is not really different from the gorillas. She tells Tarzan that Kerchak just doesn't see him the same way they do, and Tarzan swears he will make Kerchak see it. Day by day, Tarzan tries to improve himself to be just like the gorillas, learning to do everything that the gorillas do in their daily life. 10 years later, Tarzan is now an adult who has become stronger and swifter, managing to travel faster than the gorilla by surfing the trees. One day, he attempts to scare Kayla as he used to, but she already knows that he's behind her. Soon, Turk spears him off, and they wrestle each other as usual, which makes Kerchak tired of them. At that moment, Tarzan scents something from the jungle, and suddenly Sabor appears out of nowhere to attack them. However, Kerchak shows up to stop him, but soon he is beaten up by Sabor. As Sabor goes for the finish on him, immediately Tarzan interferes in the battle to kick Sabor out of Kerchak, and eventually Sabor is killed by him. Everyone then cheers for his victory, and Tarzan presents Sabor's body to Kerchak, who reacts respectfully to him as well. But at once there is a loud noise coming from far behind behind them, which encourages the gorillas to move out, yet that makes Tarzan curious, so he goes to see what it is. After arriving at the scene, he found a shotgun bullet, and soon encounters a trio of humans consisting of Professor Porter, his daughter Jane, and their guide Clayton. Porter came here to study gorillas, and they are excited to find gorillas' nests, which Porter assumes are primarily social creatures who live in family groups. But Clayton laughs after hearing family groups which he says are wild beasts that would tear their heads off immediately if the gorillas see them. As they keep moving, Jane encounters a baby baboon and draws him into her book, but as she is not careful enough, the baboon steals her book and runs off. She catches up to him and takes back every page. However, the baboon is upset that she takes the page she drew him into, which leads to her being chased by his family. In that urgent moment, she is rescued by Tarzan, and he tries to escape for Jane's safety. However, after a wild chase, he makes it to the top of a big tree, which leads the baboons to retreat, and Tarzan takes the drawing to give it to the baboon, who communicates with him in animal language. Jane tries to escape from Tarzan as she can't believe he just talked to a monkey, yet Tarzan approaches her to inspect what her kind is, and he finds out that she is a human just like him. She is surprised to hear that Tarzan can also speak, as she thought he was just a wild, quiet person, but soon she realizes he only repeats what she said. As they hear a gunshot, Jane asks Tarzan to take her to her camp, which he immediately accepts. While Tarzan is missing, Turk and Tantor search for him everywhere in the jungle, but they later come across Porter's camp. They have no clue what it is, and go in to find Tarzan as he might be there. However, they find it interesting for their amusement, which leads them to break plates, tear pages from their book, and destroy everything in the camp. As Tarzan and Jane arrive, her camp is already a mess, and Jane is amazed to see gorillas, and realizes that Tarzan is one of them as well. At that moment, Kerchak also arrives at the camp and shows up behind Jane to scare her off. However, he does no harm to her, and leaves as soon as they hear Porter and Clayton are coming. Tarzan first hesitates to leave Jane as he seems obsessed with her, but Kayla drags him out of the camp. When Porter gets there, Jane tells him about how she is chased by the army of monkeys, and is saved by the ape man, and she just met the gorillas. At their nest, Kerchak announces to his clan that they have to avoid people, but Tarzan argues with him, stating they mean no harm to the gorillas. Kerchak replies to him that Tarzan might be willing to risk their safety, but he isn't. Yet Tarzan wonders why Kerchak always threatens everyone who is different from him, but Kerchak doesn't care what he says, and he warns Tarzan to protect the family and stay away from the people. Kayla tells Tarzan to listen to Kerchak for once. However, he is mad at Kayla as she didn't tell him that there were creatures that looked like him. At the camp, Jane does a presentation to her father about Tarzan, whom she has never seen a man who acts like a gorilla, and she falls in love with his eyes, that she has never seen such eyes like his. Clayton tells Jane to quit her fantasy imagination, as he doesn't believe it is real, and at once Tarzan suddenly appears in front of Clayton, which makes him shocked. As he hears that Jane says Tarzan is with gorillas, he takes this opportunity to ask Tarzan of the gorilla's location, but it doesn't go as he expects, because Tarzan doesn't understand any word from him. As Jane has an idea, she brings Tarzan to the tent and shows him the comparison between humans and gorillas, like the place they live or their appearance, for him to easily understand what they need from him. Many days pass by, and Tarzan is now really close to Jane, and they enjoy their time being together. Clayton complains to Porter about establishing intimacy with Tarzan, which they can't waste their time anymore as the boat could arrive to take them any day, and suggests they ask him straight out. Jane then asks Tarzan to bring them to the gorillas. However, Tarzan now understands what Jane says to him, but he rejects her request. Soon after, the ship arrives to take them back to England, but Clayton begs the captain for them to stay for 2 more days, yet they can't, because the ship might be late at every port. Tarzan comes up to meet Jane with a bouquet of flowers for her. She informs him that they are going back to their home, and she asks Tarzan to come with her if he can. Tarzan tells her he can go to see England for only 1 day and come back tomorrow, but it is impossible, so Tarzan begs her to stay with him here in the jungle instead, which she says she can't, and runs off from him. Clayton then steps in to convince Tarzan that Jane will stay if he takes Jane to see the gorillas, and Tarzan agrees to do it. He goes to see Turk and asks him to do a favor, which he wants Turk to distract Kerchak out of the nest, and later Turk and Tantor dress up as humans, where Kerchak is chasing them off. After Kerchak leaves, Tarzan brings them to the nest, and they are excited to see the gorillas. However, Clayton marks the location of the nest on his map and exclaims that his dream has come true. Not long after, Turk and Tantor appear with Kerchak right behind them. As Kerchak sees humans there, he suddenly attacks Clayton, who has a weapon with him, yet Tarzan steps in to stop Kerchak from harming them, and they successfully escape. Tarzan feels guilty after putting his hand on Kerchak and immediately runs off from him. That night, he is approached by Kala, who takes him to the house where she first found him. Tarzan discovers his true past and finds out who his real mother and father were. Kayla advises him that no matter what he decides, he must do what makes him happy. Tarzan Tarzan then decides to leave with Jane and others wearing a suit that belonged to his father. He tells Kayla that no matter where he goes, she will always be his mother. After morning comes, he leaves with them in a boat and heads towards the ship. Turk and Tantor arrive too late to say goodbye to him one last time, and Turk is mad at him for leaving them just like that. Once on the ship, Tarzan is welcomed by the thugs who have captured Jane and Porter. Tarzan tries to escape but soon gets captured and realizes that Clayton has betrayed him in order to capture the gorillas. While going back, Tantor hears the sound of Tarzan, which he assumes means Tarzan is in danger, and immediately grabs Turk to go and help Tarzan. As Clayton is on his way to the jungle, Tantor climbs up the ship and succeeds in rescuing Tarzan from the locked-up room. Tarzan rushes to help the gorillas instantly. Soon after, the thugs appear to capture all of the gorillas, and as Clayton is about to finish Kerchak off, fortunately Tarzan arrives in time to save Kerchak once again. He leads the wild animals to fight off the thugs as well. Kerchak is grateful to see Tarzan has come back. As Kayla is taken to the boat, Jane sees this and hurries to stop the thugs. Tarzan comes to clear them off. However, Tarzan's arm is scratched by Clayton's bullet, and as Kerchak sees this, he immediately goes to take Clayton out. Unfortunately, Kerchak gets shot by him, which makes Tarzan so furious that he attempts to attack Clayton, but he is forced to flee when Clayton shoots multiple times at him. Clayton follows him up to the top of the tree where Tarzan sneaks up to attack him from behind. He takes the gun from Clayton, yet Tarzan hesitates to shoot him, stating that he is not a man like him, and breaks the gun into pieces. At that moment, Clayton takes out his machete to strike him. However, Tarzan easily dodges it but is forced to fall back. Clayton follows him to finish him off, but he is trapped by the vines where he chops the vines out of him and ends up hanging himself to death. Tarzan goes to see Kerchak one last time, and eventually Kerchak accepts him as one of them. Tarzan is now the new leader of their clan, and Kerchak relies on him to look after the family. This is also the first time Tarzan hears Kerchak call him his son. Tarzan then stands up as their new leader and leads them into the jungle. The following morning, Jane says goodbye to Tarzan once again and continues to her hometown. But as Porter sees that Jane really loves him, he allows her to stay in the jungle with Tarzan. Feeling excited, she immediately rushes to hug Tarzan, and they kiss each other for the first time ever. Porter can't help himself and tells the captain to inform that he and Jane were lost in the jungle, and he joins Jane as well. In the end, Jane and Tarzan live happily ever after together. And this is it for the movie. I hope you enjoyed my recap, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like and also subscribe so you won't miss my new content.